Imagine this jar as your life. This coin, that's your first real paycheck. It feels heavy. It feels like a promise. You look at the empty space above it and you think, if I just fill this to the brim, the pressure of the world will stop pressing in on me. I'll finally be safe. But here's the weird part. As the jar fills up, you don't feel lighter. You don't feel safe. Instead, you start worrying about the glass breaking. You worry about someone stealing the jar. You realize you need a bigger table to hold it and a better lock for the door. Pretty soon, you aren't looking at the coins anymore. You're just staring at the cracks forming in the wood of the table. I spent 10 years trying to fill my jar. I hit the numbers. I got the titles. And yet, my stress didn't vanish. It just changed its clothes and started charging me more for the privilege of staying. Why? Why does earning more so often feel like running faster on a treadmill that's tilted slightly upward? Today we're going to look at the machinery of our own discontent. We're going to talk about why your brain is technically a scarcity machine, how the 18th century ruined our expectations of enough, and why, biologically speaking, you might be wired to be a high-earning, highly miserable hunter-gatherer. Let's look at a scenario that happens every day in cities all over the world. Let's say you're a mid-level manager. You're stressed because you're worried about car repairs or the rent. This is survival stress. It's primal. It's loud. Then you get the big promotion. Your income doubles. You move into the dream home. You put the kids in the private school. Suddenly you aren't worried about the rent anymore. Now you're worried about the burn rate. You've built what I call an expensive floor. If you lost your job at the old salary, you could move into a smaller place, eat ramen, and survive. But now, if you stop for a second, the mortgage, the tuition, the country club fees, the whole ecosystem collapses. Your stress is mutated from, how do I get what I need, to how do I keep what I have? And the second one is actually much more taxing on the nervous system because the stakes feel existential. You've traded a cage of iron for a cage of gold, but you're still inside a cage. To understand why we do this to ourselves, we have to go back, way back. For 99% of human history, more was always better. If you found an extra bush of berries, you ate them. If you killed a larger mammoth, your tribe survived the winter. Evolution didn't have a stop button because nature provided its own stop buttons. Famine, predators, and the limits of how much you could carry. Our brains evolved a system called the dopamine baseline. Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of pursuit. It's the brain's way of saying, hey, go get that thing so we don't die. The problem is that we now live in an environment of artificial abundance. When you get a $20,000 raise, your brain gives you a massive spike of dopamine. It feels amazing for about 3 weeks. Then your brain does something called hedonic adaptation. It resets your baseline. It decides that $20,000 more is the new zero. This is where it gets weird. To get that same feeling again, you don't just need another $20,000. You need $40,000. We are using ancient software designed for a world of not enough to navigate a world of too much. Your brain literally doesn't know how to be satisfied, because in the wild, a satisfied human was a dead human. There's a pattern in human behavior that explains why our houses get bigger the more we earn. It's named after a French philosopher, Denis Diderot. Diderot lived most of his life in poverty, but then he came into some money and bought a beautiful scarlet robe. It was exquisite. But then he sat down in his old chair and thought, this chair looks pathetic next to this robe. So he bought a new chair. Then he needed a new rug to match the chair. Then new art for the walls. This is the Diderot effect. We don't buy things in isolation. We buy them to fit an identity. When you earn more, you don't just buy a better car. You buy a car that fits your new neighborhood. But that car makes your old wardrobe look off. So you upgrade the wardrobe. Every upgrade creates a new requirement for harmony. We think we're buying objects, but we're actually buying a set of invisible obligations to maintain a certain aesthetic. We are working 60 hours a week to pay for the harmony that our first big purchase demanded. If you look at the data, things get even more confusing. There's a famous concept in economics called the Easterlin Paradox. The study found that within a country, rich people are generally happier than poor people. Obvious, right? But as a country gets richer over time, the average happiness doesn't really budge. Why? Because humans are relative creatures. We don't care how much we have in a vacuum. We care how much we have compared to the person next to us. When you earn more, you usually move into a better social circle. Suddenly you aren't comparing yourself to your old friends who are struggling. You're comparing yourself to the guy on the board of directors who has a vacation home in Tuscany. You've increased your absolute wealth, but your relative wealth has stayed the same, or even dropped. You're still at the bottom of a new, more expensive ladder. You're paying a social tax to feel average in a more elite group. This is where we have to make a psychological leap. We have been taught that wealth equals assets, but for your stress levels, that's a terrible definition. There's a huge difference between high income and wealth. High income is a cash flow. It requires constant input. It's a treadmill. Wealth is time autonomy. It's the ability to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today. The reason you're raised this didn't fix your stress is likely because your income went up, but your autonomy went down. To get that extra money, you traded away your ability to control your schedule. You trade time wealth for pocket wealth. And here's the hard truth. Your nervous system doesn't care about the balance in your 401k. It cares about whether or not it feels hunted. And nothing feels more like being hunted than a calendar full of meetings you can't cancel and a mortgage you can't miss. But where does that leave us? Are we just doomed to be stressed out hamsters in mahogany wheels? Not necessarily. But it requires experts disagree on where the happiness ceiling is. Some say $75,000, some say $200,000. But they all agree on one thing. The stress stops when the margin begins. The only way to make the magic number actually work is to keep your floor exactly where it was before the raise. If you earn $100,000 but live like you earn $50,000, you've bought something that no luxury car can give you. The power to walk away. Earning more didn't fix my stress because I was trying to use money to buy security, while I was simultaneously using that same money to build a life that was insecure. The next time you're chasing a raise, ask yourself, am I filling the jar because I need the coins? Or am I just afraid of what happens if I stop pouring? Because at the end of the day, the most expensive thing you can buy is the person you used to be before you were too busy to think.